Welcome back, Onslaught Gaming 40K family. And as always, we have a special event for you. Today, we're going to get started with a tier list and talk about the new 40K meta. And before we introduce our panelists, we're going to say, "Huh!" As always, we do our little war cry, our little introduction. And make sure, if you haven't already, to like, share, and subscribe to the Onslaught Gaming 40K network. Also, make sure to stay tuned for Onslaught OCS episode 15 coming out in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the primary missions and mission rules to the 40K world and universe. And yes, let's go ahead and get started. And let's introduce our first panelist, Mr. Matt from Almost Functional 40K. And Yes, what's up, brother? And our second panelist is going to be Mr. Thomas.
What's going on?
From the world of Slanesh.
Crazy world. Don't ask questions.
A crazy world. Yes. So hopefully everyone is doing fine. How you doing, Matt? How you doing, Thomas? How's everything going?
I'm just still recovering from ATC.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, me and you both, brother. Like, I am still trying to get lots of sleep, hydrate. My back is still killing me. I'm still an old man.
No, that's not going to change.
No, that's not going to change. We just get older, more decrepit.
We're getting prettier.
We get prettier, yes, absolutely. Especially you, man. Especially you. I see you got the haircut going on.
Yeah, I got back. I've been putting it off. I was like, you know what? Let's go get it done.
Like fine wine.
And Mr.
Exactly.
Thomas over there, he's got the whole Slanesh Demons army going on.
It's an in progress thing. Okay, if I don't have it out, I'm going to forget about it.
You should put more yellow.
I'm going to only play and not hop. Needs more purple.
Use more purple. You need more purple in there. That's why.
I really do.
More pink and purple. Make it more blingy, more glittery. You gotta bedazzle it. That's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to bedazzle it next.
I need little bedazzled jewels.
Start going to Michael's and getting those little chains. You know, those ankle bracelet chains, and start putting it on there.
Yeah.
Exactly. You actually pick up your miniature and it just starts rattling. Anyways, so today, peoples, we're going to get into the whole new 40K meta, talk about all of the factions, all of the awesome armies and how they're performing, all the adaptations of the strategies and tactics. As Almost Functional 40K was just stating, right, we just came from a the biggest team event in the United States, ATC. We had a blast. If you want to go ahead and check that out, make sure to check out his channel. He gave a good briefing and overview of exactly what happened. Also, in a few days, I'm going to give a breakdown on how me and my orcs went 5-1, almost undefeated. Things happen. I had a blast, though. It's always a pleasure to be there with Matt. I always rely on Matt, too. Every single year as either co-captain, captain, and I go up to him, I'm like, hey, man, give me, a little bit of selfishness. Give me the right pairings. But he always takes care of himself and the team and things like that. So it's always a pleasure because he really cares. And I like that. I like being a part of a Matt team where he really cares and he tries to set up their pairings very well. So I appreciate you, man, for that, as always. Things happen. I got one loss, but that's a topic for another day. But I had fun. The orcs were awesome. I know you brought out your Space Wolves. So
that was your one loss, Space Wolves.
Yeah. It was. So you don't want to mention how you did, huh?
I did a whole video on how I did. I went 3-2-1, 2-3-1, something like that. My first game was on stream. I got a tie against the player who won Best World Leaders and went 5-0-1. His only game he didn't win was the one against me.
Yeah, I played against World Eaters too. It was rough. Angron was there. He didn't come back, which is awesome. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah,
But
that really affects their win rate whether he comes back or not.
Especially when he used to come back, 4 or 5 times throughout the game.
Every turn. If he's
just
alive,
every
he's a
turn.
second Angron. Second
Yep,
Angron shows up.
every single turn, which was amazing. I actually like that. Not that he came back every turn, but I mean, I like that I played against them. That's one of my favorite armies as well. I play them. Love World Eaters. Love everything they do. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? So World Eaters are actually what, in 9th place, where we're looking at a little bit earlier, Matt?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, they're 9th in win percent, tied for 8th with Chaos Demons on the stat check win percents.
So you know what? Let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and do our little tier list, right? So everyone is aware this is going to be our opinions and our tier list. Thomas, Matt, and myself, we're all going to break down what we feel like and a combination, a culmination of what is going on right now in the meta, right? Team events is a little bit different. They can be skewed. People bring different lists and things like that. So it's not necessarily the end all be all of why these factions are doing well, like at an ATC. But overall, in the meta, in the big GTs and solo play specifically, right? We're going to break that down and how great they're doing. So,
yeah, Thomas and Lewis are going to give their opinions on what's best, and I'm going to tell you what's the actual correct answers to everything.
I'm just here to meme, my man. I've off camera. I've been throwing at Lewis for just the memes, and look. I'm not the guy.
Not the guy. Not the guy.
Not it.
So let's start off with what we got here. Black Templar. All right.
Yeah. Black Templar, I think, are really good. They got best general at ATC, and I fought into them, and they're really, really tough. I think most Marines are in a good spot right now.
Yeah, Black Templars, they're in the meta right now, they're not doing too well. I think Black Templar is more of an A tier, right? Looking like an A tier, maybe mid-board A tier. They're looking real good. They have the ability. Go ahead, bro.
Because on stat check, they got them at a 37% win rate.
I was just gonna be devil's advocate and say I actually think they've gotten a little worse from Leviathan to Pariah, not because of anything that they've done or anything about them, but traditional 10th edition lists are big brick units and transports with meltas that all want to activate. Yep. And if they're activating, they're not doing actions. And I believe there's a total of 9 actions across missions and cards to do.
Mm-hmm.
So but I do want to point out that I do not to derail anything, but I do not think that this is Black Templars because it looks like we are in the A's. That may be Adeptus Sororitas if it's alphabetically lined up, because it looks like World Eaters are last right behind.
That is Adeptus Sororitas. All right, so my eyes are going bad. I might have to throw my bifocals on. So we're still going to talk about sisters, right? Sisters are probably still A tier anyways.
Yeah, I would say sisters are A tier. Yeah, they have so much stuff they can do with. Just do actions. There's a lot of stuff. And those miracle dice, just having certain things in the game, all right, this is happening, instead of, all right, I hope I don't roll double ones. Like, this should happen, but it might not. Sisters have so many things that are like, I can guarantee this happens. And that just really changes the math on lots of stuff.
Yeah, no, my main play opponent at the moment is sisters, and I got to tell you, having just guaranteed results is is that a hell of a drug to have in 40K.
Yeah, because you set something up that you think, all right, this should work, and your whole game plan's off it, and then the dice say no, as opposed to you set something up and it's going to happen. Like those 1 in 10 games where your dice just go, no, we're going to roll double ones twice in a row on this 4-inch charge.
Now, I will be specific. I think that the Bringers of Flame and the Penitent Host specifically are maybe burgeoning into S tier. The other two, I think, are maybe lower A, top B, but their their speedy shooting detachment and their speedy melee detachment are absolutely a bear to deal with.
Yeah. The funny thing is, they have the Hollowed Martyrs with a 60% win rate, but it's only 25 games.
Yeah.
So it's not a great sample size, but
I was just gonna say, what's the size of that?
Yeah. A lot of this Pariah Nexus stuff is early. We got team events, people practicing list 4 teams at other events. So I think what they're showing on StatCheck will change over the next month or so as people figure Pariah out and stop taking Leviathan lists and everybody starts running Pariah lists and everybody's not prepping for ATC. I think this will shake up a little bit. I think that does skew what these standings are right now.
Yep. For sure. And go ahead, Lewis. Sorry.
No. I think so too. I think the No Maiden right now, the No Maiden Vigil is doing pretty great, right? Fall is doing amazing. That's not a lot of information. It's only 5 games.
Yeah, it's undefeated in 5 games. So that's probably 1 player at 1 event would be my guess.
But out of 203 games, the Sisters are at a 56% win rate.
Yes, Sisters are really, really good right now.
So they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, no, agreed. I believe that they are the bottom of the S tier. I think there are a few armies, but I believe that they are a cut above everybody but those other 2 or 3 armies. Because like almost Functional mentioned, guarantee it's very similar to very beginning Eldari, where this just happens. Instead of 6 or 9 fate dice, though, you have, I think it's like an average of 24 miracle dice if you're playing a real game of 40K, trading, dying, using your abilities. Yep. And it is just wild. But now, to be fair, it is a majority of T3 girls in power armor and 6 up and 5 up invulns, unless it's on a character, then it's a 4 up. So, they do have to play a trade and play smart, but all things being equal, they are a powerful force.
And 1 week in a month, they have a better win rate than the other 3.
Good. They still play great in the right hands, right? Like in a couple RTTs that has been going on in the last couple weeks, especially one that I ran, they've been doing great, right? In the right hands, they do end up doing a lot better as well. They still T3 bodies, right? So they die relatively fast, but they hit hard. They're fast. Their vehicles, their rhinos can move out, I want to say 27 inches, hop out with a flamer and just scorch you to death, right? Very dangerous. So going on into Custodes. So what do we feel about Custodes, my people? I know Custodes right now has a pretty decent win percentage. They're actually in a 6th place on StatCheck, just about there.
Yeah, I would say mid A at least, maybe bottom of A, depending on what else is there. But they are, oh boy, critical 5s every single turn of the game, and melee is also just quite the ability to call on.
Yep, and with their toughness, and if they're making their save, they are hard to shift.
I agree.
And new kid on the block, Venatari, they give a whole new dynamic that Custodes didn't have, which is speed and ingress plays.
Dude, I played against
it was a gap.
Yeah, the guy I played against the guy I played against had 2 units of those things charging in with lance. I kind of ignored them, thinking, oh, these are just little jump units. Those things are brutal.
Yeah, they are. They're tough. They have a 2 up, 4 up. They can play the objective very well in the Pariah Nexus as well for Custodes, right?
Yep.
I think they tech in to hold, take hold, taking hold the objective itself, right? And they do very well on that mission. A lot of holding objective missions, anything that has to do with standing there, guarding, right? Making sure that you don't kill them, they do that very well.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's see what we got next. We have AdMech. So AdMech has been kind of a sad one, right? They just got an update, some point increases as well, some point decreases as well. I would say AdMech is sitting around more like probably bottom of B tier, maybe top C tier.
Yeah, I think once someone figures them out, I think they have the potential to be high B, A in the hands of a very, very skilled player. But I think it's a high skill cap army. So, or do we want to rank these based on in the hands of the best player, or like in general what you can expect in the hands of an average player?
An average player, right? Something
Yeah,
in
so average.
between where
Yeah.
where we're at, you know, and
Oh,
basically
bad players. Okay.
that's you, not me. No,
Yes.
no,
Yeah. So
no.
I'd say low B, C, somewhere right in there right
Yeah,
now, because they're very hard to play.
absolutely. That's where I would think too. I think they're a challenge, like you said. They're low toughness army as well. You
Yep.
really have to understand them. They're just like Sisters of Battle, low toughness. You got to understand exactly what you're doing. They're more of a finesse, high skill cap army, just like World Eaters, but a lot less resilient.
Yeah, there's a lot of like stacking buffs and auras and stuff to make that army work correctly.
Yeah, I agree. You back with us, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right, all right. So, what's your thoughts before we jump into the next faction on AdMech? How do you feel about AdMech? Have you played into them?
I think they're a rough call. Partly because of there being a lot of rules and compounding with that, still playing Leviathan and Pariah. I don't think anyone's used to AdMech enough to make a proper call for like what their ceiling. But the ceiling's kind of hard to call at the moment, in my opinion.
I agree.
So I think low B is probably good because they're much improved, but how improved is the question.
And I'm gonna help everybody out too, and we're gonna disguise our faces, and we're gonna go into a full screen view of everything so everyone can see this fully. All right.
All right.
So what we have next is Eldari. Those pesky elves. Elves are always great, right?
Yeah.
I think they're still A tier.
Yeah, I think they're toward the bottom now.
Yeah, I think they're towards the bottom now too. In the right hands, I think they can play up, right, into the higher A tiers. I think in the meta right now, I've seen people, and I actually did an interview with an individual that did very well, won a tournament with them. So I think people have to learn like the new meta and what's going on with them, right?
Yep.
Give me one
second.
second.
Because they're sitting at a 49% right now.
Is it only 41?
49.
49?
Yep.
That's not bad because people still figure out a way how to play them, right?
Yep.
So there's so many data sheets, there's so many things, right? They have the speed, they can play missions very well. In particular, they can do terraform. They can do things like Purge the Foe can be a little bit of a challenge for them.
Yep.
Purge the Foe, especially if they're going MSU. They can easily do Scorched Earth. Taking hold might be more of a challenge for them. The Ritual, with their speed, they do very well with that. So they play in well to the Pariah Nexus and what the new meta is all about, right? So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, they have lots of little units to do the stuff that needs to be done.
I agree. All right, give me one second. So we are going to go into. All right, my man is back. So we have the Imperial Agents. Imperial Agents, I mean, other than being added into armies, they're in a pretty mediocre spot. I would say C tier. If they're being added into armies like an Assassin, Calidus, Calexis, things like that, then they're doing amazing. What's your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of their role, what they're here for. Like, they are great allies. Like the Calidus with the new I can't remember the name of it, but the new Vect is is amazing. Like, you can deep strike her in within on your go turn. You can deep strike her in within 12 of the enemy when you're going to charge in or whatever, and just stop all the stuff you're going to hit with your other units from popping strats. Her up down is still really, really nice for helping achieve secondary missions. I think she's amazing. The Vindicare is okay. I'm trying him out in one of the lists I'm coming up with because you're fighting berserkers or you're fighting stuff like that, and you need to kill out those Moes, or you're fighting Death Guard, and they got that fight first character. Like, there's certain characters that if you can kill them out before you touch the enemy, it really, really changes the math of the game. But there's also other matchups where he's not needed. So in those games, he's just an action piece.
Yep.
But so he's not quite as useful in every matchup as the Calidus. I think she's good in every game.
Well, you just dropped her out of your list too, right?
No, I just added her to my list.
Oh, you just added her back to your list. Okay, because I know you removed her at one point in time.
Yeah. Originally, with Lord of Deceit, when I first read it, I thought it was a nerf. But after talking to people and seeing it played and realizing, you know what? If you just bring her in at the right time, it's actually a buff. Especially playing Wolves. I got a list where I'm running her and Bjorn to run up and double CP mess with you. And I think it can just be dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. That could definitely be OP as well. Yeah, I think they're and I think collectively we feel like they're in C tier. You add them into an army, they could be A tier. But by themselves as a faction, they're not doing too well, right? We probably need an update, a new book coming out soon. Hopefully, there's been some rumors where they might be added to like a Death Watch or something like that, or
as a standalone faction, they're not good at all.
No. All right. Now we got next up is Guard. Guard is not too shabby position. They're doing well. They're the indirect fire nerfing, right, has kind of put them in a bad position. I don't think necessarily they're C tier. I think they're more bottom of B tier more than anything else. Not mid B tier, not high mid tier, but more like bottom B. They still have tanks. They still have bodies. Low toughness, but they can still do take and hold. Hold objectives great. Control objectives very well. Also on stat checks, I want to say they had them around 15th, so just underneath, mid tier. They're actually, let me take a look real quick because this keeps on updating.
Yeah, I don't know what my thing just refreshed. It's not showing me percentages anymore. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
50% is right at 50, which is where
50%. Yep, 194 games. Yep. So I think they're doing pretty well, right? I think like every army, right? Just about. It's maybe not GSC and GSC, Black Templars. Black Templars are not doing too well on stat check, but in the right hands, they can do very well. Death Guard is not played a lot, so I don't think we have a lot of data on that.
There's 202 games in with 44 players.
For which one?
Death Guard.
You just don't see them locally, right? You don't see them in a lot of events as well. Like we played 6 matches and we didn't fight into Death Guard at all. We fought into Nurgle achievements. Did we?
Will fought Death Guard.
Ah, okay,
yeah,
okay.
The Death Guard beat the World Eaters.
Ah, well,
because they both have fight first, and the Death Guard are tough. That's a tough matchup for other combat armies because they're so hard to kill, and they have access to fight first.
That's a nightmare matchup for orcs. You know, they can have them hitting on 6s.
Yep.
Because they naturally like mega knobs before the nerf. They were hitting on 4. You know, they hit 4s naturally without the war boss and mega armor. And then Death Guard can make them hit on 6s.
Yep.
It's pretty nasty. You know, they take the Nurglings, they take Typhus, and then they take their detachment rule for a -1 weapon skill. And I understand that the 2 don't stack between the Nurglings and Typhus, but they do stack if you're a +1.
Yeah.
So now we have Black Templars, so we were kind of touching up on Black Templars a little bit. I still think that Black Templars is more of a bottom, you know, B tier type of army.
Yeah, I think they're solid into some matchups, but they just have some really bad matchups. So I think that's their biggest problem.
Yeah.
And I think there's just some other Marines that do what Black Templars want to do a little better right now.
Yeah, I think that, you know, still having the feel no pain for their units, very resilient units. They get the ability to give either +1 damage onto their what are those units called? I don't know. I don't play
Sword Brethren.
Yeah, the Sword Brethren.
Sword Brethren. There we go.
They're like jacked up Blade Guard.
They are, and they can get +1 damage. Yeah, they're pretty nasty.
Yeah, they have some good character attachments for the Sword Brethren. Bunch of Sword Brethren and Impulsors, I think, is one of the better ways to play Black Templars right now.
Helbrecht is insane. And then, of course, the unit of what's it called? Eradicators.
Oh, well, yeah, the Eradicators with the Biologist and the Land Raider. Then you got the Impulsors with Helbrecht, Emperor Champion, some Lieutenants. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best way to play them right now.
That list has that problem that we were talking about in the beginning, where it's all stuff that wants to activate. None of it wants to sit back and do a cleanse or do a terraform, or, you know, it all wants, like, later in the game, maybe the Land Raider does or something, but like turns 1 and 2 when you're staging and you need those meltas to soften something up before a charge, it's real hard to do action and get your efficiency.
Yeah. Well, when I played into the one Black Templar player up here named Brendan, he's a real good player. He used the Impulsors to do a lot of his actions. And so once the Impulsors are empty, they're not that easy to kill, and you got Sword Brethren running at you. You really don't want to waste time trying to kill Impulsors. All the stuff that's good at killing Impulsors is good at killing Sword Brethren.
Yep.
So so if you had a scout or something, infiltrator, one or two little units behind to start your actions turn 1. Then after turn 2, because you can advance and get out of Impulsor, you could really stage early turn 1, if not turn 2, your Sword Brethren mid-table where you want them. And then your Impulsors are really just free to just go block lanes and do actions the rest of the game.
Whatever they need to do, especially when you hop out some Eradicators out of a Land Raider, and then you go to charge them. Yes, and you go to charge them, and they hop right back into the Land Raider, and then they Redeemer flame you. Right? It's rough. It's almost like a got you, which is not. It's rough. So if you're playing against them, right, be prepared for that. They'll just hop right inside of a vehicle if you try to charge them.
Yeah.
Sisters do that too.
Yeah. But the sisters aren't overwatching you with the Redeemer as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
The Redeemer went up to 285, so I don't think you'll see people running 3 of them.
Still,
but you're going to see one. There's still a lot of lists.
Still worth it. Every day of the week, still worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, for 1, not 3 anymore. But yeah, you'll see 1. Maybe some crazy guy will run 2, but you're going to see 1 in a lot of Marine lists.
So obviously we have Blood Angels. Blood Angels are obviously S tier right now. Death Company being so cheap, right? You don't feel like they're S tier?
Everybody says that, but they've only got a 56% win rate. They're below Sisters, Drukhari, and Wolves. I think a lot of people are scared of them, and there's some matchups to really get into, but I think there are things that can deal with them if you know how to. I think they scare people the most. I honestly don't think there's any S tier army right now.
Well, and while I agree with you in your game theory on that, ranking them at my level, I'll speak for myself. I'm only a 3-3 player at best at a super major. Some people and even just armies wholesale cannot handle jump intercessors and Death Company in your face turn 1. Like the game just stops being played for them there because they never leave their deployment zone. So maybe at like super high caliber play with perfect positioning and staging and measuring your 4.5 inches apart so you can't tag and charge and stuff. Sure. But at our level, I mean, I've fallen victim to, the not even turn 1 wall, just being charged by 6-inch scouting world eaters or 20 commandos. And it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to get out of this until next turn. And then you're going to wall me. Then I'm not going to get out of it for 2 turns. And now we're on turn 4 and I haven't left where I'm at. So fast, aggressive armies, especially in Pariah, where I don't know, I think 18 or 16 of the 18 cards can be scored midfield or your deployment zone.
Yep, and they get to it really fast.
Just stopping your opponent, and even if you go second, you're just like, cool. By the way, I can do all this extra stuff to get there, and when I get there, you're gonna like. +2 strength on the charge is insane, and then access to lance on top of that.
Yeah, but a lot of it's still just chain swords, which don't have a lot of good AP.
No, Death Company can take all kinds of war gear.
Well, just the Death Company. If you deal with the Death Company, the rest of it, the jump intercessors and stuff, aren't that scary.
Oh yeah, I mean, not on their attacks, but
+2 strength, so they're strength 6. Their power fists are strength 10. Right?
Yep.
They're really gross. I think you're being biased because you're a Space Wolf player, Matt.
No, I think there's stuff like World Leaders and Death Guard where you charge in with all that stuff and you still swing second.
Yeah.
And they kill most of your stuff. It doesn't matter what weapons you had.
Sure.
I think they punch up very well. Very well.
I think they're the top of A. I just don't think there is anything
an S tier, anything that's kind of broken.
S is like 70, 80 win % to me. Like,
or even or like broken.
You see it, you see it. There's like shit. There's no chance.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, saying about Sisters having higher, I personally think that Sisters is the best shooting army in the game, and Blood Angels is the best melee army in the game.
Yeah, and I'd say being the best melee army is better right now with the majority of the layouts if people are playing,
especially in this meta. Absolutely. And
I agree.
I think Pariah Nexus, I know Pariah Nexus gave melee armies a big buff, right? It's doing most of the armies are doing a lot better. World Leaders came back up.
Yeah.
Orcs, even at a 32% win percentage, they're still doing amazing if you know how to properly position them, just like World Eaters. Things like that. Shooting armies can get, kind of nerfed a little bit in some layouts. Yep. So, what were you saying, brother? The 30 what?
I said, their win percent's going to go up after you play in this weekend.
I know. People are going to hate me for that. They're going to be like, stop it. Especially Cliff Russell, too. Shout out to Cliff Russell from Texas. He took best orc overall. I came in second place right behind him. But he had, Dread Mob, which I like to call Dread Mafia. So he took first place, and that's going to skew the numbers as well. So GW, if you're watching, we still need a buff. Need a buff. We need better AP. We really need better AP. When we fight into Marines, it becomes a challenge. It really does. So
give the Big Hunt +1 AP. That's my vote. Make the Big Hunt the best one.
But
that would be pretty awesome.
Comments about Blood Angels in the chat, like Dorian. Most Marine detachments have access to Lance, and all jump intercessors do Mortals on the charge. So that's not a Blood Angel specific thing.
No,
but that's what Dorian is saying. They just do it better.
the sanguinary priest with giving them AP2 and I believe a 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah.
Then as a Tyranid player, 5-up feel no pain, even on gargoyles, let alone a marine body with 2 wounds, really changes how math works.
Mm-hmm.
No, what Dorian is saying is if you're strength 6 or strength 10, right, with that lance, now you're winning on 2s. So all of that theorizing where they're not going to be efficient to punch up with that lance is going to make them even better, right? That's just like Squig Hogs. Squig Hogs are only strength 6 in the wall, but +1, but that lance, that can get very gross very fast, especially if you're playing into Marines. Even though they're AP1, it gets gross. It makes it more efficient, right? A lot more dice attrition.
Yeah, I said they have a lot of matchups where they're brutal and people can't deal with it. I think there's enough bad matchups and things that can handle them that they don't quite jump to S. I still think they're the top A tier. I think they're the top of everything. I think they're A tier. I just don't think they quite jump to S personally.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree too. I know there's been other channels. They've been putting them up in S tier, things like that.
Well, that was before any games had been played. So that was, I kind of agree with them whenever I was.
No, that was currently. Currently.
All right, I saw a video where they did it before.
It was just a couple of days ago, but I don't feel like I don't feel like anything is broken.
Yeah, if you don't have the best win rate in the game, how can you be S tier?
We are talking about, multiple different platforms we're gathering this information from, right? So we'll see, like you said previously, we'll see in about a month or two. Yeah. We'll see how everything is kind of doing, and then we'll have better data about everything and what's going on. So next we have up is the demons. Demons are really strong depending on what type of list you're building.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're doing all of the gods, Monster Mash lists. I think that can get pretty good. I don't think they're necessarily A tier.
I think they're high B.
I think so too. I think they're better than AdMech.
Yeah.
I can get them. Come on, AdMech. Get over here. I think so. Let me tier AdMech down lower. I think Black Templar is better than Imperial Guard. Custodes are better than Eldar. We agree. Yes. I think Sisters are better than Custodes. And then we have Imperial Agents. All right. So that looks about right now.
Yeah, because Demon, what you're seeing right now, it seems to be, unless someone else figures out a better build, is the Monster Mash. And while a lot of armies have trouble dealing with that, there are certain armies that can pick up 1 or 2 a turn, and then they just lose. Like we saw that at ATC. Our Demon player was either winning big or losing big most of the time. There wasn't a lot of in between.
Yeah, well, there's a big gap between novice and expert level players as well. Like I played into 2 Demon players. The army is rough. Right, it's tough to punch up to a great unclean one. Toughness 12. What is it? 20 wounds, Thomas? Right,
18 on the generic, and I believe 20 on the named demons. Although great unclean ones might be 20 and 22 because Nurgle.
Yeah, 20. I want to say 20 because everything else is just around 18. And then what, a 4-up feel no pain?
4-up in. 4-up invul in the Nurgle relic is 4-up feel no pain in shadows, which on the great unclean one it always is. So,
Yep.
Yeah. But
Dorian, so much, 4-up feel no pain is gross.
You have so much stuff so many points in the big stuff that if you're able to hold that up and just kill most of the little stuff, they really can't play the secondaries.
Yeah,
unless they're, but that's list specific, like I was saying in the beginning, right?
Demons.
If you're taking Nurglings, if you're taking little demonettes and things like that, like they can play into the secondary pretty well. And trying to remove a great unclean one and Eroticus off of an objective from controlling it is not an easy feat.
I agree. I think demons are top of B. I think that they have punching up to do, but I do also believe that they have the power to do it. Like if someone underestimates them or goes easy, I will say right now their worst matchup, no matter what your army is Votann. Votan love pointing at the 4 tallest models you have and deciding you don't get to use them this game. Yeah. But short of that, most other, like a lot of melee armies really don't want to go into demons, funnily enough, for a lot of the reasons that Death Guard's good into them.
Yeah.
While they don't necessarily have fights first, they are loaded with debuffs. Shalaxi can -1 attack. I believe the generic Great Unclean one lowers your toughness. And it just gets and if you multi-charge and then they interrupt with a Bloodthirster, good luck, man.
Especially if they have Nurglings next to them too. Yep. So if you have Nurglings, which one of my opponents did over the weekend, he put Nurglings right next to the Great Unclean one. So you're stacking up your level of efficiency and decreasing my efficiency now, right? So then now my knobs, which I hit him with 10 knobs, okay? And it took me 3 turns just to kill the Great Unclean one. I don't know why he never decided to fall on back and maybe get multiple units in there to fight me. But things happen, right?
Yeah.
But I hit it, 40 attacks plus the Warlord. The War Boss hits it with another 9 attacks on the charge. So 49 attacks, all strength 10, but he's toughness 12. So I'm hitting on 4s naturally, +1 for the War Boss. So back up to 4s for the Nurglings being there. So I'm hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, AP2, 2 damage, and then he was taking about half of the amount of wounds that I was actually giving him because he has a 4-up invul, just like Thomas was stating, right? Plus a 4-up feel no pain. So it took me about 3 turns to actually destroy that model. And I just changed up. I think that demons are below Black Templar, to be honest with you.
I guess, it depends on the matchup. But I think demons
you got a shout out, Thomas. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, demons have trouble. I think they'll have trouble into Chaos or Imperial Knights if they're built kind of shooty.
Yes, absolutely. It's list specific, positioning, just like every army, right? Just like every army, it's going to be semantics. But I think that faction-wise, right, not list-wise, I think faction-wise, they can be very good, very highly resilient.
Yeah.
I think fighting into the Fate Weaver, they're strong, right? They don't have a lot of wounds, but fighting the Fate Weaver with that 4-up invul, anything Zinch, you know that, Matt. Fighting anything Zinch with a 4-up invul. Go ahead, brother.
And I think they're better in teams, and we're going to see a lot more team events because you can avoid those couple bad matchups and you put them into anything else, they're going to do very, very well.
Yeah. And we'll see. Like, I play a lot of solo play as well. I've seen demons before, especially Nurgle demons. I've seen some high skill cap players playing with Nurgle demons, a lot of Great Unclean ones, Nurglings, Bellicor, things like that. So I don't agree exactly with that assessment that it's just specifically good for team play. I've seen it. I've ran events with people running a lot of demons at those events. I think they're better in teams, but not specific for teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're best in teams.
Yeah, I think they're best in teams. I've seen a dude play against John Lennon with demons on the final table at my GT and almost beat him with demons.
John who?
Exactly.
No, but no, you said to rate these as average players. Yeah, all of this changes if you're talking about the top player skill level of each faction. This ranking changes for some of these armies that have a higher skill cap. But this is my thought on average level players is what you told me to rank it on.
I will say one last thing about demons that is really funny for people at my level specifically. Sticky objectives is really funny when you do it turn 1 and you get to turn 5 and they just, even though you tell them every round you're scoring it, they still forget that you have it, even though you're nowhere near it.
That's what Inceptors are for.
What do we got next?
Yes.
So what we got next is Chaos Knights. So Chaos Knights, I think that, what do we think collectively, right? I know about them. I'm not super proficient with them, but I think they're a C tier type of army.
I think they're right between demons and Astra Militarum. I'm going to be real with you.
Yep, I think they're B tier. With all the buffs Knights got, the big Knights can hold objectives and do actions and shoot.
And Chaos Knights,
I definitely don't think they're C.
Chaos Knights specifically, their armature models, the shooting armatures hit on 2s, and the melee armatures hit on 2s and melee, and they both hit on 3s, and the opposite one they're bad at. Yep. And you compare, they don't have the feel no pain built in that Imperial does, but they're hitting a whole 17% better across the board than the Imperials. And now they get to, Knights of Shade 2 armatures through a wall, and just, Kool-Aid Man a big one through the wall. And that amount of mobility is I've played Chaos Knights in a lot of events. I seem to attract them. They are rough, man. You cannot slow them down. You cannot really debuff them down. It is just attrition from turn 1 onward. And who thought giving them 2 Melt-to-4 guns on a model was okay?
GW apparently.
But yes, I do believe that they are very good. Now, being a knight army, they are, a skew list by design. So they have some things like, I believe Astra Militarum is a very good counter. You can just encircle an entire knight, and now you're -1 to shoot, and you can't, if you're not a fighting knight, you're not fighting your way out of it anytime fast. And if you fall back, you're doing nothing. That's 140-ish, 50-ish points. That's just standing there now.
Oh, and the little knights.
And then 8 Lehman Russes are going to delete 2, maybe 3 armature models without that feel no pain pretty reliably. So, but then you go into things like Drakari, who are like, how many Dark Lances did you bring? Well, that's sad. And that's just the game. So,
and railguns too. Railguns can get pretty nasty. Demolisher cannons from Imgard, right?
But if you run into that Dark Eldar player that teched into Haywire.
They bring 15 scourges. 15 scourges with Haywire also make for a very quick match, which goes to the point that it's just a seesaw. Like what side of the spectrum are you on?
Yes, yeah. They have, I think, that same problem demons do. Certain matchups they're just almost unbeatable. In other matchups, they're just like, all right, you killed most of my big stuff in 3 turns. This game's over.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we're going to go into CSM. CSM can be pretty gnarly. I played a couple games into CSM. I know that I know some common current players that are using them or stop using them. They're not super great. I think they're below Chaos Knights, but not, but better than AdMech. What do you guys think?
I'd say maybe right now, I think once people figure AdMech out, it might jump over CSM. Couple games I've played into them, I was not super impressed with them compared to where they were just a little while ago.
Yeah, I think they're C tier, honestly.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think they survived on a lot of tricks and stuff, and a lot of that tricks, such as army-wide advance, which back in Leviathan was army-wide move and do actions fast. And then also the Raptor, I believe. The nerf to the unit that could just go up and you could never touch it.
The Warp Talons.
Yeah.
Warp Talons. That, I think, really sealed, because then they could at least still play the actions. And now I don't. I think that they are marine bodies with a few vehicles that are just... Now, Dark Pacting is still very good.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you got to pass the pack first, then get the buff. That is just on demand, sustained or lethals is great. But I think you're right. I think there is a list or a play style to be figured out. I know a lot of people are going to Soulforge Warpact or whatever that's called.
Yep.
To just try to beef their way through it.
Yeah, I think that's just a stat checklist.
Yeah, that you're back to the monster mash demons and knights problem.
Yep.
But I think for now they've kind of got thrown from their throne and are trying to climb their way back up. Very, very chaos appropriate, honestly.
Yeah, Nick and I built like 2 or 3 lists on Chaos Marines right before Pariah Nexus, and pretty much everything he put in the list went up in points.
Yep.
Just about everything. Yep. And they're still soft, right? Chosen are still pretty gross. I mean, people are putting now Demolisher cannons, Vindicators in there, and things like that. They're very strong. Dorian stated one of the statement over here: I could be an idiot, but no Drakari player is maxing out Haywire. The moment you touch your demons, you're useless, right? So I think so. I don't think that people are going to tech into full haywire, right? They're going to take a couple other things.
Yeah,
that was.
I don't think you're an idiot. I don't think you're an idiot, but yeah, I absolutely think that people are not fully teching into haywire.
Well, it depends on their local meta. If their local meta is Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, and like guard tanks, and they don't see a lot of that stuff, then they might. But yeah, in like at a big 50-man tournament, you probably don't have to worry about it unless you unluckily match that one local guy who's still at haywire from like 2 editions ago when it was real good, and that's just what his scourges are.
Guy or girl. Yes.
Or girl. Or
moving on. Yes. Or exactly.
But
so we got one. Go ahead, bro.
So I agree with you probably won't see it a lot, but if you do run into that one guy, it would suck.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And it is predicated by the meta. There are multiple factors with all this, people. Right? So be cognizant of all that. It's skill level. It is your current meta and what you're playing against. Things like that. The layouts, the missions, the primaries, mission rules, right? Like there are multiple factors. But predominantly, we're talking about, a very mid-tier, a good knowledgeable understanding of these factions and these armies, and that's what we're talking about today. And specifically the strength, right? So 51% is the strength and the abilities, the efficiency of the army, 49% being a very mid-tier type of player. So the next one we have, very contentious. I think this can be argued, arguably first or second place right now in the A tier for Dark Angels.
I think they're
very strong. Go ahead, Thomas.
I believe they are the second best army in the game. Yep. For the opposite reason of Blood Angels is not their overwhelming offense, which they can bring to bear, and oh boy, can they do that! But it is that defense, that those 15 Deathwing Knights who are just gonna tell you no. Killing one unit is gonna be a hassle. Killing 2 units is gonna be your game. There's still a third unit most armies, I should say, just don't have the damage ability to pump out and kill them.
Yep.
And that's all I was going to say. Go ahead.
And I don't know if a lot of people have the models yet, but I played against Dark Angels at ATC, and he was also running a unit of Inner Circle Companions with Azrael, and those things are just brutal as well.
Pretty nasty, right? Aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, like looking at their win percents on the online here, it doesn't match with what I felt. No. It doesn't match with what I felt when I played against them.
Yeah.
I think they are definitely an A-tier list.
Yep, very high A tier.
They can park the middle and tank whatever you send at them for the most part, and I think that's going to win a lot of Pariah Nexus games.
I believe that our top 3 right there is best melee in Blood Angels, most durable in Dark Angels, and best shooting offensive with Sisters.
Yep.
And I think that is the correct lineup.
And Sisters, and the nice thing about Sisters shooting is it's not like long range sit back. They can't find angles. It's jumping out of transports, fast moving, so they can find the angles on these layouts.
And it's encouraged to get within 12 inches and Bringers of Flame because then their shooting gets better.
Yeah, I think their rules play into their shooting working in Pariah Nexus.
Yep. So Dark Angels, very good, very tough. Yeah, and unlike the other stat check armies that we've mentioned, demons, knights, they have bodies. They have options. They're still Marines. They can take the Inceptors. They can take Scouts. Hell, they could take, what do they call it, Outriders? If they wanted to. Yep. Like, it's legal. So they have everything that we said the others don't.
Black Knights were their old bike squad,
Well, I don't think they're as much a stat check army because they have their toughness isn't, like, amazing. They just have good saves.
Well, yeah, it's a Terminator body with a 4-up invuln and a -1 damage with 4 wounds.
Yep.
That is even an Exocrine is going to take an average of 4 shots to get through 1 model.
Yep.
Mini great unclean one.
Yeah, and so it's not a stat check in a matter of can you damage it. It's does the damage you do have enough weight? Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to be minimum damage 3 to kill them into 2 wounds.
Yep, and with a 4-up invul, you need 4 of those attacks to get through.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just with how many you get through, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the math gets real wild real fast when you start mathing it out for 15.
And God forbid you're anything under AP3 and they're standing in cover.
Yes, yes, like
orcs. No, armor of contempt is a thing they can use.
Yep. They're just taking 2 ups now.
Some of you who are thinking, hey, don't worry, I have grenades and tank shock and dev wounds, once per game, after they see the number of mortals you do, they can just choose to have a 4-up Feel No Pain against those mortals specifically. So, it durable.
They got the tools. They're very durable. Like I said, many great unclean ones. They're very strong, if not a little bit better, right?
Yep.
It goes either way. But yeah, they are very good. And, most Dark Angels lists, either in theory because of lack of models or in practice, are swinging towards just 15 of those bad boys.
So next up on the docket is Death Guard. Where are we feeling like Death Guard is at? I've seen people playing Death Guard, right? And they skew into defense. I think their Plague Marines hit very hard with fight first, all the flails and things like that. I would say maybe, my opinion, A tier, maybe mid-bottom tier. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they're good. They counter a couple good top armies really well, but
they do.
There's other armies, they're slow against. Like if you're fighting a shooty army, all that fight first doesn't matter as much. So I honestly think Blood Angels are worse into them than Sisters are. Just without having seen either of those matchups, just would be my first.
No, you're right. I agree, though. You think they're better than Eldar or worse than Eldar? I think Eldar is probably better than them.
Eldar, I think, has enough MSU with the Pariah missions to still stay slightly above them.
Yeah, right? And they can stay away from them as well.
But the funny thing is, I think Eldar loses to them in a matchup.
So I think that if we put Eldar against the other 26 factions and Death Guard against the other 26 factions, Eldar are going to do better.
Yep.
Because I think that Death Guard, while they have very good counters into Custodes, even Dark Angels, because they can help debuff some of that durability we talked about, and Blood Angels, like you've mentioned, Matt, with the fights first and stuff. They are still very slow in a mission where you need things to get out and do stuff in B places.
Yeah, I think Sisters, both versions of Knights, Guard, and Votann give Death Guard tough games.
I think they are either the bottom of A or the very top of B. Personally, I think that they they are somewhere in that nebulous zone of they're in A by virtue of the meta carrying them up by what they're good at countering, or on their own merit they're the very top of B. Because there is something to be said for just having a tough army that makes your opponent's army worse.
Yeah, there is. But like Matt, kind of pointed out as well, against shooty armies, so, Eldar, not particularly shooty, but they can tech into a lot of shooting haywire, things like that. That it's not going to be super efficient into them, but still, right? They're building on shuriken cannons. Tau is really going to try not to get into them, right? Armies like Guard can do pretty well into them as well and just delete them because of their lack of speed, right? So they'll try to indirect them to death or mortar them to death or hit them with demolisher cannons before they even bother coming in.
Yeah, I think they have enough bad matchups to move them down to top of B personally, but bottom of A, I don't really have an issue with that either.
Yeah, I think
We'll see if we're reset at the end. We'll take a look at it real quickly at the end. We have
another one of Lewis's army, so he doesn't want to move him down one.
No. Actually, I got rid of that army.
I'm just teasing you.
I know. I got rid of them, so it's no longer my army.
Well, that shows you they can't be A tier if Lewis got rid of them.
He's watched his hands.
I play orcs, man. Are you crazy?
And world leaders.
When I start playing Blood Angels and Dark Angels, then there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So what about Death Watch? Death Watch is in a very rough spot. I think they're C tier. What do you guys think?
I think that if they're in C tier, they're only in C tier on the back of being able to bring generic marine bodies and having armor of contempt. Like I think them as a faction themselves are honestly D. Like being a Marine faction is worth something, and they are probably deserving of C tier, but not because of Deathwatch rules, because of just generic Space Marine Armor of Contempt 3-up saves and the bevy of units you can bring rules.
Yep, I would agree with that. Being a Marine and having access to Marine stuff, being able to run Gladius just keeps them at C tier, barely.
It does. Yeah, I think they rank all the way at C. I think Pariah Nexus has really cleaned up everything and kept everything very close between the A and C tier. Yeah. I mean, if we feel like because of the lack of representation on the game, on the player top, on the tournament, things like that, then maybe I would agree with you guys, right? That it's D. I think that if people actually played them, took them into events, I think we would see their win rate increase just slightly, putting them in the bottom of C tier and leaving them out of D tier. But yeah, no, I'm neither here or there. I agree with you guys. I think they can either be high D or bottom of C.
Yeah, well, I think the reason you're not seeing them played is because the only people playing them are like hardcore I love Deathwatch fans. Anybody else is just dropping the Deathwatch keyword in those couple words and taking all their other bodies that are actual Marines and running it as a different faction.
I will say, for as down as I was on them, I do think that if, someone were to bite the bullet and play them with their teleporting shenanigans and their double oath they can do, and potentially reroll hits and wounds, depending on how your TO interprets that interaction, boy, they could punch up very surprisingly. But
yeah, certain matchups, certain armies they could do very well into, right?
Yeah, they
literally you put them against orcs, they could do very well into orcs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another thing where it's just them being Marines.
Yeah, absolutely. They also have their ammunition they can deal with orcs and things like that. But once again, if you're playing Deathwatch, keep on playing Deathwatch, man. Hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So the next one is Drukhari. So recently we were looking at stat checks. Stat checks, Drukhari is actually number 1 out of 200 plus games. I think Drukhari is more of A tier, mid A tier. I don't think that they're better than Sisters of Battle. I think that they are not better than the Custodes, but probably better than Eldar. What do you guys think?
I don't know. They have a lot, just like Eldar, they have a lot of MSU stuff. They have Dark Lances, they have Haywire, they have Witches. They might slightly jump over Custodes because I think they can do the Pariah stuff better than Custodes can. Correct. But I wouldn't also be... I don't have a problem with them being right behind Custodes either.
I think they are actually right behind Eldar because I look at them like Eldar light. Like they can do a lot of the same stuff that Eldar is known for doing, but they don't have the depth of support that Eldar have in like Wraith units or Falcons or Ynnari. Now, but that being said, I do think they are about neck and neck with Eldar. They're just kind of the opposite end of the skew that we've been talking about, and they are skewed to just maximum MSU and just paper thin bodies.
Well, I honestly think with all the Venoms that it actually jumps them over Eldar because all those Venoms can start running around doing actions once you unload them.
Yeah, it's the what's it called? Combat squatting rule, right? Where you start out with like 3 units of racks, and now you have 6 racks and 3 Venoms with like 5 racks in each, and it just gets. But that's kind of what I was thinking. It's a critical mass of stuff that's not difficult to deal with, but needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, it's going to run around and score points.
Yeah, because they're sitting at. I mean, we're referencing stat check, but that's because they show a lot of the percentages. They're sitting at 61 while Eldar are at 49.
Although I will say, and I just saw this in chat that Dorian pointed out, if we're rating them on average player, they are almost certainly in B tier because if you don't play Drukhari near perfectly, they fall over like dominoes.
Yeah.
If you don't get your positioning right, you don't get your measurements measured right, they are dead bodies and they are dead fast.
Do you guys think we should put them in B tier?
For an average player, yes, because they have zero they have zero room for mistakes. Unfortunately,
they do.
I feel the
That's
same
right.
about Eldar, though. Eldar doesn't have a lot of room for mistakes.
I'm fine with that.
Fragile.
I agree. I think that now they should be also, but now having and thank you, Dorian, for saying that.
That's true. Because
That
we're talking. So go ahead, Thomas.
No, I was just thanking Dorian for his point that average player they are B tier, because and I assume because of that reason, and Eldar as well would fall in that same boat. You're right.
Yeah, and I think that takes stuff like all the Marines, Death Guard, Knights, stuff that's just naturally tough that you don't have to be a good player for your units to be tough.
Yeah.
In the hands of an average player, it jumps them up a little more than it would if we're just ranking everything in the hands of top level players.
Yeah, I think Death Watch still stays at the end, but I think Chaos Knights probably gets bumped up a little bit, right? Chaos Knights probably goes in front of Demons.
Yeah,
I think it's still behind Black Templar. I think it's still a Marine body. Yep. I think they can deal with Knights as well, very well. So, okay, good shout out to Dorian. Very good insight. Very good insight.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the next one. So we got GSC. So we're just gonna put this in the F or D.
F. Drop, man. Even people in competitive circuits are having a hard time justifying D for those guys. I've been, full disclosure, I've been looking at them since I heard about their new codex, and I kind of thought about it and toyed with it. Yeah. And I'm just, you look and you get excited and you're like, oh, this has cool rules and some interactions and wow, look at this. And then you're like, but where is the damage I'm going to do?
Yep.
Like they just don't have any credible threatening damage outside of their Ridge Runners.
Yeah, they are, of all the armies, the one that needs the highest skill cap to play well.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I think in the hands of an average player, you're not going to win a lot of games. So yeah, I'm definitely fine with him being in D in the hands of an average player.
Imagine playing Drakari and your best gun was the Haywire gun.
Yep.
And that's where you're at.
Yeah, the only saving grace they have is they can bring the detachment where they can bring a bunch of guard, and then you get some tanks.
And at that point, just play guard with 2,000 points.
Exactly.
I mean,
but they have to be loyal to the Emperor.
They have two sneaky little units. Like they have the bikes. They can, do like 27 mortal wounds between a player turn, an entire turn rather. They also have the runners, the Ridge Runners. They can do pretty well as well. But I don't think that completes the whole army out, like you guys were saying, right? I'm saying they still have some units that still play very well, but it doesn't make them a great army, especially in a mediocre or mid-level player's hands, right? So.
Yeah. Oh no, for the Reductus Saboteur and the other one, the triple pistol guy. I can't remember his name at the moment. They are Kellamorph. Yeah, they are some of the most fantastic units, and the Ridge Runner as well being the standout. But yeah, unfortunately, like they will max out a secondary deck next to better than almost any army on this list. Problem is getting 5 turns of 2,000 points, 1,800 points, 1,500 points shooting you because you just can't credibly threaten them. You won't get to turn 5 to score.
Yep.
Yep. Anime Squirrel says, praise the 4-armed Emperor. I think they're more like 2 or 3 armed right now, unfortunately.
Heresy.
The Emperor has 4 arms. 2 of them are just into warp. Your mortal mind cannot comprehend his machinations.
Love it. Yeah, so I do apologize, on behalf of the people, the community, that GSC is doing horrible. I think that's a beautiful army aesthetically. I think they should have a lot more gameplay and efficiency, but GW just didn't give them the love that they needed, right?
Yeah.
And to any aspiring cultists out there, just look at your AdMech brethren who were just here 3 months ago, and there is hope.
Yes, so, they do a good job of fixing things once they see for sure that it hasn't a problem.
Yep.
And if you learn your rules now when they're bad, when your rules get good, you're going to be that much better.
All right. So next on the docket, we got Grey Knights. What do you guys feel about Grey Knights? I know, Matt, you play into Grey Knights a lot. I know you win quite a few games against them. So
Grey Knights are another one like GSC that to be played to their highest takes a lot of skill, but they do still run Terminators and Dread Knights. So in a low skill player's hand, they still can do well because just they're hard to kill now with shooting. So I would say they're low B in the hands of an average player.
I would put them right next to demons. I'd agree with that.
Because they have so many tricks. If you do them well, like if you're a good player, I'd put them up in the top 4 or 5 armies for personally, just having experienced the difference between playing a good player with them.
Correct.
I played an average Grey Knight player and beat him 14-6. I played a good Grey Knight player and he beat me 20-0. That's a ATC score. Like, it's just a huge difference in that army if you know how to position and run it well versus just not. Yeah, and they all have 2-up. Even the strike squads have 2-up saves.
Yeah, they are durable, mobile, but you don't use the rules to the fullest, or to take advantage of them.
Yep.
They are still just marine bodies, but with a 2-up save instead of a 3-up.
And Dread Knight's backing them up better than anything else. So so I think they're slightly better than Marines and average players. In the hands of good players, I think they're a lot better than Marines.
Especially with all the extra tricks, like you said, right? So they have the ability to kind of run away, the demos, right? Dread Knights, like Matt said, right? I think they have all the abilities, all the tools, but in the right hands, like you guys.
And if you don't know how to fight Grey Knights, if you don't know how to fight against Grey Knights, it's going to be one of the most frustrating games you've ever played.
Yeah.
Amen. It will be.
Luckily, thanks to David, I've experienced, so I know what's about to happen before it happens. But if it just keeps happening and you have no clue how to counter it,
hey, shout out to David. I also played him.
Yeah, shout out to David
and playing David forever. But
also they played the fixed missions very well as well.
They can. If you don't have like infiltrators and stuff, this is what David and I talked about. They can almost guarantee 37, 38 points off fixed every game if you don't have the 12-inch deep strike deny stuff that can stop their 3-inch drop.
Yep.
But actually, that's a thought I just had. If we're talking average player against average player, they might actually move up a little bit because an average player is going to have no clue how to deal with them.
Yeah, true, but also if an average player is playing them, the reason I said put them there or suggested it is because they won't remember to miss of dinos or think about it or save it for a crucial moment. They may get caught up in, and also a big weakness even for professional players is the Dread Knights are T8 somehow. So that like meltas and anything and auto cannons and stuff like that just rip through them, unfortunately.
I agree.
They still had a 4-up invul. I put 4 Lancer shots into him and he made all 4 invuls and I didn't put a scratch on him.
I just don't think they're easier to play than Demons and Chaos Knights, right? For a mid-tier player. I think they're a little bit more of a challenge. I think they're more high skill cap type.
Well,
so I would say they could probably sit right here, right in the middle of the pack. But we'll see. Once we fill it up, we'll take
lore-wise, no matter what we do, them and Demons should be right next to each other.
Exactly.
I love it. So next up is Imp Knights. So Imperial Knights.
I'd say they go very close to Chaos Knights, but maybe
I'm going to be
slightly ahead because they have more tricks.
I'm going to be a little contentious and say they're bottom of A because of Assassin support and Canis Rex.
Oh, true. If we're throwing in the Calidus and stuff with them, then yes, I would move them up to A.
An average player, just looking at a net list or saying, hey, what's good? Throw in the Assassin, throw in Canis, build from there. Oof. Also,
just looking at them just faction wise, without the Assassins, right? They're probably better than Black Templar. I'd
still say bottom of A. If you just because Canis and a Lancer, both tank shocking because the Lancers calls it out and Canis can make it free. And Canis still just I have a lot of respect for Canis. I've played him a lot, and I Also, just 6-up Filno Pains going to a 5-up Filno Pain potentially is insane on a night.
Yeah. Dorian says C tier.
No, they're definitely not C tier. They're too tough to be C tier.
They are the quintessential mid-table terror army for a reason.
Yeah, they are. And they
average player to average player, they are tough to deal with.
C tier, if you're not taking Canis, you're running a lot of, just the big knights without Canis and things like that. Yeah, I can understand that.
I'd still see them B tier because now the big knights can action and shoot, which changed a lot of their problems.
Yeah, action and still shoot is pretty good. Really,
and they can run through buildings now.
Also, as we were just talking about for Grey Knights, but on Knights, it's a whole lot funny and a whole lot less mental load. Mysterious Guardian, just picking up a Knight and anytime saying, hey, I can pick this guy up and I can put it back down anywhere I want. You don't have to be precise and good. It's a T12 model. Even if you mess up where you put him, he's probably not dying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they have the same problem as Chaos Knights. There's certain armies that just pick them up, but there's other armies that just can't deal with them.
And even at the level we're talking about, even the armies that could potentially deal with them, if you misplay it or don't do it right, you still just get run over because they are.
Yeah, you don't kill the right knights first. I always like to try to take out the armatures first, and then just make the big knights have to do everything.
I kill Canis out of principle.
Yeah.
There's no strategy.
You make sure you got to kill them both. You got to kill the vehicle and him.
Nope, Sir Harold can run around in shame. Canis dies.
Dorian, no, you're fine. You're apologizing for putting out your opinion. No, we value your opinion very much. Please keep on speaking up. This is not something that's contentious between us and you and things like that. We're not even being contentious with each other, right? We're just talking out our values and giving out our opinions and how we play things. Matt's actually in Virginia. Thomas is actually closer to me. Me and Thomas play a lot more games as well. So Matt might have a different opinion, and I'm not going to disagree with his opinion because his meta might be currently a little bit different, right? He might have different level players, skill level players. His mid-tier players in Virginia are obviously not as good as Florida mid-tier players, right?
Well, so. my meta just won best team and best general at ATC.
Yeah, but we talked about that. It's teams, right? So if they can do the most loopy, crazy things, then that makes sense, right? It's Virginia.
Real quick, to go back to Knights.
One second.
Yes.
If I know you're from Virginia, I love you. I'm just totally joking. Go ahead, Thomas.
I will say full disclosure on my part. Knights is the army that I've played into the most with another normal play partner of mine. So I have a lot of experience, and they are, as much as I have not wanted to admit it, they are very good, even if you don't know like the most precise, professional way to play.
Yeah.
Those stats can carry you quite a bit.
They can.
Oh, yeah. And before Pariah, when the big knights couldn't do actions and they couldn't run through the walls and all that stuff, they were definitely a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Dorian plays, but before Pariah, there was definitely a lot of armies that did not have problems with knights.
I'm going to guess Dorian plays Votan. Is like, yeah, none of these big monster, big vehicle armies matter to me. What are they talking about?
Well, exactly.
You didn't have to be able to kill knights to beat them before. If you could just kill a couple of small knights when the big knights couldn't really do the actions and they'd either shoot or do actions.
Yeah.
Now that they can do actions, there's still a couple armies that can kind of just beat knights, but there's a lot of armies that beat them before off just playing the game better than them that can't do that anymore.
What do you play, Dorian? Put it in the comments.
Drukhari and Nids.
Drukhari Nids. Got it. Okay. So, Drukhari Haywire can deal with it very easily, like we were talking about before, right?
Yeah, and they both would have had a much better time in Leviathan against Knights, beating them on the missions than they do now.
And Exocrine.
And they both have models that, if he's running like Monster Mash, then he probably has the guns to, or Crusher Stampede, or whatever they call it. He probably has the tools to pick up Knights fairly quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We'll get to bugs, Dorian. Don't worry.
Yeah, next, actually, what you were talking about, Thomas, is Votan. So Votan is actually not in a bad place. A lot of people have been coming in first and second place in GT, solo GTs
Yeah.
with them, right? I think more of a mid-level and what we're talking about, right? I think they are a middle of the pack B tier. What do you guys think?
I
So I'm
think
just
they
gonna
might
place
be
it there.
higher up B with their shooting, if not bottom of A, personally.
See, I didn't want to sound like a broken record, but I also think bottom of A at like mid player level.
Yep.
Because just picking 4 things, like pick 3 things that matter and one thing you know they're going to scout out or they infiltrated, just to get a 3 CP on extra CP on turn 1, and then +1 to hit and wound on the other 2 things to start off with. Mind you, you can still gain that +1 to hit and +1 to wound throughout the battle through normal means of grudge tokens. Like that is something that is harder to play, or like you have to plan to play around it. And to play with it as the Votann player, it just happens by playing the game of 40K.
Yeah. Hecaton.
So you think it's easier for somebody to pick them up and just really start doing really well with them?
Yep.
I think that they are one of the more beginner-friendly armies. Probably not the most, because there are still some interactions you need to be aware of and like timing things. But yeah, no, like just, even if you just said, hey, here's your army, pick 4 of my units, and you're +1 to hit and wound them for the entire battle. Let's start. Like that's just a good place to start at.
Off the top of my head, the only thing I'd say easier to play would be Marines for a beginner.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Hecatons are still really tough, shoot really well. You can spam Sagittars and just like Impulsors and Venoms, like once you jump your stuff out, they shoot decent. You can do actions with them. They have the new Jaeger model, so now they have infiltrating units that they never had before. I honestly think Votann are in a really decent spot right now. They
are. I think so too. I don't think they're as oppressive as they were in your hands back in the days when they first came out. Man, they were oppressive as hell.
No, they were. Well, they were S.
When they first dropped. I'm saying when they first dropped.
That nerf will get you.
Well, before the pre-drop nerf, they were whatever is above S tier, and then after they nerfed them before I even got my codex and models, then they were S top of A easily for those first couple months.
You guys want to hear a funny story about pre-nerfed Votann?
No. I mean, oh yes.
No. There was a little experiment done where all of the most broken armies in 9th at their peaks before nerfs were put against each other, and unnerfed Votann still fell behind the unnerfed Harlequins and unnerfed Tyranids.
Oh, Harlequins were the stupidest thing ever.
So like Tyranids were. Tyranids were, and it was by a lot because of Maleceptors. But anyways, yeah, that was just a little funny piece of Votann history. But I think we have another one of my armies coming up.
Yes, we do. So we're going to talk about Necrons. So Necrons are in a very good place too, I would say picking them up. They have like that Marine feel, right? I think they're very easy to play with. I think in a mid-level player's hands, they could be very good. What do you guys think?
I don't think they have the damage output to be good. They're simple to play, but they don't do a lot of damage.
I think that they are. I think they're right in front of Death Guard, because if you give someone a list that is like 30 Immortals, 20 Warriors, Imhotep, and 2 Catans, and then whatever else you want inside that list, it's going to be real hard to play around at this level.
I'm going to agree with both of you and put it in the middle. I think they're easier to play than Eldar. I don't think they're as good as Votann. If you pick up a fresh box set, a patrol box set, that they're going to smash like Eldar. But I think they're highly resilient. I think you're absolutely right, Thomas, when you say, you jump on the bandwagon of Immortals. You grab some crypto thralls, things like that. They can make you very resilient. It's very easy, even for mid-level players, just to go online and look at some lists and play with it and do really well. I know some very mid-level players that play Necrons, and they're just still hard to kill. They're still annoying, like Matt was saying earlier, right? Not for Necrons in particular, but playing against like Death Guard and things like that. They're still very hard to kill and deal with. You still gotta take them off the table. You still gotta not allow them to control objectives and things like that. So
yeah, the thing with them is if they get to the middle of the table, they're hard to shift. But if you get to the middle of the table, they don't have the tools to shift you either.
unless they have those immortals. But yeah, no, I don't think they punch up. I think you're right. I don't think they punch up well. I don't think they punch up well to knights. That's why I think we should keep them below knights, right? Maybe a little bit higher than chaos knights because of playability. But go ahead, brother.
I'll say my brothers in Christ. Have you guys forgotten Catans exist? Specifically the Nightbringer and the Void Dragon? They tear apart specifically knights, but like that's, and also just real quick, Doomstalkers and the Heavy Locust Destroyers with the one-shot AP4 flat 6 damage gun.
Yeah.
It gets now again, this is getting a bit into the weeds of what you're taking or not taking, but like they're options. If you want to just say, hey, after that, you know, my 4 units of battle line, a couple characters, here's 2 Catan, a bunch of Doomstalkers, and a bunch of flat 6 damage shots. No one likes that.
No, you're right. And that's why I feel like they're above Eldar, right? I think they're more resilient than Eldar, and I think they can really kill into knights really well, right? I think they can. And Satan are nasty, right? Like Animal Squirrel is saying that 4++ on race is frustrating and also ban Catans. I mean, they're rough to deal with, right? They're very strong. They're annoying with that half damage, right? But I don't think they should be banned. I think they play well. I think they should ban the ability to take 3 of them.
Yeah,
I think taking 3 of them is obnoxious.
You can take 6 if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Get it? Yeah, even having 6 of them, that's obnoxious. That's just,
but no, I think that they're kind of like Dark Angels. Their durability and then the fact that you can build an army around that is insane for this level.
Yeah, I agree. Now we have up one of my favorites.
Oh, hold on.
They're obviously whoa. They're obviously S tier, right? Right, peoples? They're obviously no. I'm just kidding.
F tier. F orcs. Oh,
I honestly think that orcs, if you pick them up, they're probably bottom of B tier. I would say even Guard would beat them, but they're better than Admech.
Well, remember, this isn't just pick them up. It's a mid-table player.
Yeah, I'd personally say in the hands of a mid-table player, they're around C tier. I think it takes a lot of skill to run orcs right now with everything that's happened to them.
All right, you think they're worse than Admech, huh?
Yeah, they're saying that a 40% win rate right now.
I think
but I think I think if you take a lot of bodies like a Green Tide, they're gonna beat up on Admech. They're not gonna beat up on Imp Guard, right? They're gonna beat up on CSM.
But the more bodies and units you take, the more stuff there is for a mid-level player to remember and mess up.
If you have 120 orc boys, you ain't forgetting nothing.
You're not forgetting. You won't forget one. You won't forget to move one of the units.
I will say that looking at this, where the orcs are right there, I confidently think orcs could take the 5 lists below them. The 5, I think that like the hardest match might be Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
But I also do agree with Matt there that they to not just brain dead advance charge every turn, hope you make your saves to get into combat. It is a little more finesse than that. But also commandos make that real easy for the first turn or 2.
Yeah, I mean if you position them right. Yeah. Yeah, and if you position them. Yeah. They can die very quickly.
They say it's an easy army to mess up, put some stuff out where you shouldn't have, and just get wrecked.
I think they're in front of Chaos Space Marines for sure. Like they're better than that. They're top of C or bottom of B, I think. No,
honestly, I think between Chosen and Demolisher Cannons can really mess up orcs really well.
And I think the vehicle heavy was it the
Flamers,
the Soul Forged pack. I think give orcs a lot of problems.
Yeah, and Rubric Marines. Don't forget Rubric Marines because CSM can take 4 Flamers, multiple units of those, right?
Yeah.
And just flame those orcs. I actually played against them. So it's all about positioning.
Yeah. Now, in the hands of a really, really good player, I'd jump them up to B, somewhere in B, probably higher of B.
Yeah.
But in the hands of an average player, I think they're a C tier army.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh boy, the simplest army to pick up.
Space Marines.
Yeah, I think they're B. I think they're below all the, other than Death Watch, I think they're below all the other flavors of Marines. Just because
I think they're ahead of Black Templars. I think generic Marines, if you consider especially I think Gladius is better than the Templar detachment.
Well, I guess if we're just considering Templars in theirs, but Templars in the Gladius, I think are better than Marines in the Gladius.
But then wouldn't that's but that okay. Yeah, no, all right. I gotta look because I'm like, if you're including the Gladius, what isn't that just using Marine rules on Templar bodies? Because at that point, you're not Black Templar.
You're taking the Templar characters and you're listed as Templar. So I mean, if we're only taking like the Blood Angel detachment or that changes the things, but most of the other armies take all their special stuff and sometimes stick it into like Gladius or Stormlance, and that's what really jumps their win rates up over regular Marines.
Yeah. Not having access to those special characters outside of the 6 not loyalist attachments. Yep. I do think that Marines, I envision them like on either side of Votan. One for ease of play.
Yep.
It's really easy to hand someone a Marine army and be like, hey, so like I know you got like 16 data sheets, but they all work together and it's great. Have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Also, oh my god, Gladius Eradicators with the Biologus and Bolter Discipline. What is that unit?
Well, that's when I fought against the Black Templar list I was talking about. He was running Gladius. He had Helbrecht and the Champion, all the Sword Brethren, and the Impulsors. But then he also had the Biologus with the enhancement and the Land Raider with. So that just take Templars to that next level. Like that.
Yeah.
So I'm saying Templar characters are better than the Marine characters. So if they both run Gladius, I think Templars are slightly ahead of Marines. But if we just take Templars in their detachment, then they are definitely below Marines.
Yeah, I was rating them based on their own detachment because like Blood Angels and Dark Angels I rated in the the Knights.
Yeah, we're doing this by fact. Yeah, by book itself. So Space Marines by themselves are probably a little bit better than Necrons, probably worse than Black Templar. What do you guys think?
Well, it depends. If we're saying Black Templars only in their detachment, then I'd say Marines are better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Marines are right around there on like either side of Votan, I'd say, for mid-level people, because Marines, like vanilla Marines, so to speak, historically hover around that 50% win rate. Like it's normally the specialized attachments with specialized characters, like Matt was saying, that get above and high into the higher percentages.
Yeah, I'm just ranking like if you go to a tournament and you see, oh, I'm playing Black Templars, you're most likely seeing Gladius. So if they go and thinking, oh, they said they're below these armies, but no, in Gladius it says I rank them with just all the possibilities they can take and still be called Black Templars on BCP.
Right.
All right. So then up next we have
S tier.
Space Wolves.
S tier.
Space Wolves. Obviously F tier. They're not doing amazing. No, in all seriousness though,
they're still A tier.
Space Wolves, if we're looking at Space Wolves, right? With Champions of Rust, I think they're A tier, higher B tier, right? I don't
know. They're A tier. I'd say
right.
They're right in front of Votan.
As I say, they're right ahead of Votan.
Yep.
I'd almost stick them maybe ahead of Knights, but I think they beat Death Guard, but I think Death Guard is better in some other matchups, so I'd leave Death Guard ahead on the tier ranking. But yeah, I'd put them either right behind or right ahead of Knights.
Well, you play them obviously, Matt, but my logic is for Space Wolves at a medium level player, you're not they're very finesse with how you move them, how you pile in, how you consolidate, the quote unquote wolf jail, and how long you can keep that up.
Wolf jail is Stormlance. With the new buffs to Champions of Rust.
Champions of Rust, yes.
They can build into sustained hits, lethal, or feel no pains. I was just building some lists on my channel. There are so many options of Space Wolves. Like they're no longer limited to one specific build. Like I built the list with 3 Redemptors, Bjorn, Murderfang, and then I built another one that's just like all Blade Guard and jump in. Like there's so many variations you can go to with Wolves that I think a new player can get into them fairly easily. And you can, beginning of each game, be like, oh, I'm fighting Knights. Well, I need the lethal hits and Lance strat. oh, I'm fighting orcs. Well, I want the sustained hits and the advance and charge, so I can hit the adaptability of being able to pick one of 3 rules to buff your army before the game starts. I think is really, really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
COR is really nice. Yep, COR is really nice. Obviously, with Gladius, it can get a little bit different, but yeah, COR is really nice. I agree. So next up is Tau. So Tau got a buff in the meta, and then they're really not doing too well in mediocre hands.
They're another one that in the right hands they
Yeah,
are brutal,
nasty. Yeah,
but in the average hands, they're probably right there somewhere in the middle of B tier somewhere.
yep, I agree.
Yep,
I agree.
I
think they have the ability to shoot knights and kill knights very well, right? With all their rail guns.
Absolutely.
You can take, the what are those pesky things? Oh my gosh. I'm going blank here.
The piranhas?
Hammerhead?
Riptides. Right? Riptides can do very well. So if you're taking riptides and things like that, I think they're relatively easy to play with. So
but on these layouts, I think stuff like Blood Angels, I can get into them quick, will give them a lot of problems.
Actually, I would put them behind Astra Militarum, because if they're both shooting armies, for Tau to get their maximum efficiency, they have to be guided, whereas Astra Militarum can kind of just let loose now with their new buff. Because the Tau player has to be aware of every guided unit, then what's able to guide and what can see what, and
that's guiding right order. Yeah, there's a little more skill to Tau than guard. I would agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So we got the final 3, and obviously they left the best for last. So we have Matt's favorite, Thousand Suns. So Thousand Suns, I think that even if you pick them up, they are really, really good.
Yep.
I would say that they're probably right about here, better than Custodes. Yeah, I think they're very strong. The amount of mortal wounds that they dish out, the Rubric Marines, even though they got a nerf where it's not taking away your armor save, it's just a -2 AP now. Yeah. I still think that, a mid-tier player can pick them up and do tons of mortal wounds, being able to move Morty, 20-something odd inches. Morty, that's what I said.
Magnus. Yeah. So, real quick.
I joke, of course.
I will point out, like we just did for Tau, for all those things to work, that T-Suns player needs to be keeping track of their sorcerers, needs to be keeping track of their squad leaders, and they need to be aware of what Cabal points are going to be spent where, so they don't overspend or go down a rabbit hole. And again, talking mid-tier players, not top-tier people who have it all calculated down to the decimal.
Yeah, top tier, I'd argue them and might be the top army. But I see what you're saying.
I think they're top of B tier for
Knights, Votan. So maybe drop them down toward the end, just because the other armies are simpler for a mid-tier level to play. That's not to say the strength of the army's weaker. It's just in the hands of a player. There's more stuff for them to remember and do. I think what you're saying, Thomas.
Yeah, a wise man once said, "Your rules only work if you remember them."
That's true.
Mortal wounds all over the place.
Yeah, so I guess if we're ranking,
I'm happy to drop Thousand Suns down.
So. If we're ranking specifically in the hands of a mid-level player, not off total strength of book, I'm fine with that.
I still think they're stronger than that. I still think they rank around here, but
they gotta go. They gotta go back at least one more. Right there, you can go that far. You can go right ahead of Votan. You can't go any further.
This is where I think they go
right now. God damn it.
Hey, we put the Grey Knights next to the Demons. We're putting those 2 next to each other.
They can be next to it, but just move them back one.
Oh,
they're staying right there. He's staying right there.
Boy. If you move them, I'll put the hat on.
No, in all honesty, I think they are a higher skill cap. I think they are harder to play. I think they're right
full
back here.
Strength, they're right there at the top with Blood Angels. But I think there's a lot to remember and learn with Thousand Suns.
Yeah, T-Suns are scary, Will. Yeah. Great seeing you on the chat too, brother. Great seeing you in person and meeting you, man. It was an absolute pleasure. You're one of my favorite people in life because you're a World Eaters player and you love CSM. So
no, put it back down.
Who's that?
The Tyranid. They're top of C.
You think so? You think for a novice player they're top of C? I think
yeah, look, it hurts. I'm in pain. But to remember your synapse ranges, to know where you need your Hive Tyrant to be to get those lethal hits and to get that free CP ability, to remember, and I'm going to repeat that, to remember to fire a godforsaken Spore Mine after you're done shooting and clearing up space. It's a very cerebral army that you need, and it's also a 5-turn army. Tyranids are an army. They are a jack of all trades, master of none. They can move better than most, shoot as hard as some other armies, and their melee can be very scary when push comes to shove. They are not the best at any of those. Eldar and Drukhari are better at moving. Blood Angels and Worldies are better at melee, and Sisters and Tau and also Eldar are better at shooting. Now, where Tyranids excel is playing that 5-turn game. And I can tell you from personal experience, mid-level players are not practiced at planning out a 5-turn game. Because what Tyranids don't have, you'll notice I didn't mention, is durability.
True.
They have 3 Maliceptors and maybe a -1 damage or Feel No Pain Hive Tyrant, and that is it. So I unfortunately for not unfortunately, it's actually very good. For mid players, they're an average army to play. You'll win some, you'll lose some, you'll almost never win big, you'll almost never lose big. But I just don't think they have that same bite that Sisters or Blood Angels do. They don't have the mobility or the MSU capability that Eldar or Drukhari do, and they are not nearly as just skewed as Knights or Custodes. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. You two's thoughts?
Well, anime thoughts. Anime Squirrel. Nids can bring so many bodies, though, right? I think it's the same thing as orcs. Even though you have the bodies, Termagants, if you're talking about Termagants or Gene Stealers, right? Like they are not.
No.
They are not it. They are not it.
So many people that bring a flamer type stuff now that just picks them up so easily.
Yeah,
and now you can only recycle once now, which really hurts Tyranids.
Yep.
And also Tyranids, even with the new buff they've gotten to Zoanthropes with the Neurothrope being able to join them, you still are not super reliably killing tanks every turn. Like it's rough. So I do, and to again, just disclosure, Anime Squirrel is my normal play partner. He's a sister player that I've referenced before. Even the mid-tier bodies, though, not even talking Gaunts, the Pyrovores and Lictor style models, they're not even clearing a full 5-man Space Marine squad on average. So, and they will be cleared by a 5-man Space Marine squad on average. So that's kind of what I'm talking about on the durability front. But
I agree. I think they're top of C tier, underneath AdMech, above CSM, and then we have the very last one. And I think that novice players, this is probably one of the highest skill cap type of armies. I think that they are below orcs because orcs can have extra bodies and more resilient. World Eaters are very elite. I think that with Angron, that helps out a lot. But, if you're running just Jackals and 8-bound and things like that, you got to position them correctly. If not, they die very quickly. I've been playing them for a very long time. They are very strong in the right hands, very weak in the wrong hands. They can die very, very fast, especially only with a 5-up Feel No Pain and a 5-up Invul. So what's your thoughts, Matt?
I personally think they're A tier, up probably right around Custodes, because in the hands of a new player, Angron saves a lot, and fight first in average player versus average player is a really hard thing to get around.
I'm like Thomas. Like I play this army, and they're not easy. They're not easy. If you make a mistake, just like Eldar, they can be really, really bad, and you can go downhill very quickly.
They're still marine bodies. They're a lot more durable than Eldar.
I would put them right behind Tau. I was gonna advocate for them being the 1 S tier army before you said that, because in my defense, The scout character scouting everything up, and then advance in charge. As your first blood oath with whatever else you want, and then an advanced 6 inches strat. Whoo, man, that like similar to Votan, that just ends people's games. But you do make a point. You don't deploy right. You get shot. You pick the wrong things that you think, oh, I'll take sustained and feel no pain's not really making a plan on how to get there. You do bring up good points. Also, I'm kind of biased because what the hell is 6 spawn and Angron to start a list with? Oh my god.
That's what I'm saying. You take Angron to spawn a couple rhinos with an MOE and berserkers. You just push up, get out. They charge you. You fight first kill. Like, there's really not a lot of skill needed in that.
But I do see Lewis's point to where if you go second and you misdeployed or you scouted just as far forward, not trying to get cover or whatever, or not measuring where you think you're in cover, but then suddenly their Riptide can advance because they chose Montcaw and you just didn't check that. I think they're right behind Tau, though, because like Matt said, they are still Marines. And boy, howdy, if that coin flip of who goes first and who got the deployment more right goes in your favor, your opponent doesn't get to turn 3 now. You get 2 full turns to fix whatever mistakes you made.
Yeah.
We did it.
I think they they get into a rough position, especially in positioning and putting them down on the tabletop. They can be very rough, man. I when I first started playing them, they were a tough army to play. You got to position them properly, even with Marine bodies. The Berserkers are not always going to slap everything that they don't punch up very well either, so they don't play well into Knights, just the Berserkers themselves. Angron obviously can flip anything. Like, I flipped 2 Lancers with Angron.
Yeah. Well,
right?
We took a brand new player playing World Leaders who's never been to a competitive event in his life, and he did pretty well with them.
But that's not competitive. That's not to say that he never played, right?
We're talking about average players, and he's a newer player.
Yeah, he says you run out of resources real quick in World Leaders. Yeah, I know.
That is the real weakness. Is they have the similar problem to kind of Black Templars without Black Templar vehicles. Everybody wants to go do something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I understand the army very, very well. They are they are not in the best position, but no, man, it's been an awesome show. Thank you everyone for participating, and let me go ahead and give an outro real quick, guys. All right, so say bye, and we'll be back in a second.
Bye, guys.
See you.
So, as always, my peoples, thank you very much for supporting the Onslaught Gaming 40K platform. Also, make sure to go check out Almost Functional 40K on their channel as well. Thank you very much for Thomas for supporting and being part of what we've done today. We try to minimize it, keep it very low on time, but we wanted to kind of expand out on everything that is particular into the new Warhammer 40K meta that's going on right now. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for all of the other series. As a reminder, we have the Op series as well, and we also had Rapid Fire Tactics. Also, I make a lot of shorts. There's going to be a lot of YouTube shorts on orgs, World Leaders, and a lot more to come in the future. Thank you very much. Everyone take care. Have a wonderful night.